Good day, folks, or as they say where I come from, Abinya. Abinya. That means, how have you been? In a more reasonable demonstration of the use of the English language. But in the centre of England, in the black country where I come from, that's not how they talk. They talk a little bit different. Abinya, are you alright, mate? Hope so. Anyway, welcome to Spindrifter. If you've never been here before, you're welcome massively. If you're not welcome anywhere else on this planet, you're welcome here. I have a simple question today, and I'm going to answer it in a very simple way. The question is this: is there a God? Is there a God? Well, now there's a question, isn't it? Now, in keeping with what we're about here at Spindrifter, you're not going to get a long, drawn-out theological argument about whether there's a God or not. I'm going to answer this question very simply and very accurately. And the answer is yes, there is a God. Not only one, there's plenty of them. We used to say, when we were kids, to describe a lot of something, we'd say there's pags of it, pags of it. I don't even understand what the word meant. It was a black country term, I presume. It meant there's lots of it. There's lots of gods. We read about places like ancient Athens. I don't know whether you've ever been there. Obviously I don't. Stupid comment that. But never mind. I've been to Athens a few times. It used to be really sweet. Now it's covered in graffiti all over the place, and the city leaders seem powerless to do anything about that vandalism, which is what it is, frankly. But anyway, if you go into the centre of Athens, in the old part, there's an area there called the Agora, which is a Greek word meaning marketplace, and it's where the old philosophers and the talkers and that and the thinkers in Greece used to do their thing. And you find amongst the ruins there the remains of statues to various Greek gods. And all of this sits under the shadow of the Parthenon, the Acropolis, that's up on the hill there. And when you go up there, and it's hot and slippy and all of that, but it's always well worth a go to have a wander up there. But you can see that there were places there where they also used to worship various gods. Now, we may not do that anymore in our society. We don't worship statues, do we, as much as they did. I'm reminded that the ancient Egyptians, they used to worship onions. I mean, yeah, okay, well, we'll come back to that one at another date, perhaps. Hail the almighty onion. Never mind. We don't worship statues, we don't worship onions, potatoes, carrots, parsnips or anything else. But we cannot say, as a society, as a culture, and I'm referring specifically to the Western world, which is the bit that I know something about, we cannot say that we have no gods. People will say to you, I'm not religious. No, me and my family, we're not religious. What a load of rubbish. You absolutely are. Far more so than you would ever think. So are there any gods? Yes. Here's one. I'll show you one. Here's a god that many people worship today. Now that's a £10 note. Money. There's a lot of people around me in this world, in this culture, in this society, whose God is money. It's the thing that they dedicate their lives to. It's the thing that they devote their attention to. It's the thing that they worship beyond everything else. It's the thing that they will give anything to get. And it doesn't matter how much they get. It ain't never going to be enough. There's a God. I can think of plenty more. Your job, your career, your status, Your God, it's what you devote yourself to. It's what you dedicate yourself to. It's what you desire more than anything else. Children. Now, I'm not suggesting for one moment in time that we should not love our children. Quite the opposite. And plenty of folk there are who do not love their children in the way that they should. And I'm not saying we're all going to be perfect parents either, because I can't say that I ever was a perfect parent. But I did love my children. But what I didn't do was worship them. What I didn't do was to create an idol out of them and make them into an object of worship. And I look around today, and a lot of the stuff that I see going on around children is precisely and exactly that. They become the focus and the centre of all the family activity, and they are in effect an idol. Small wonder plenty of them seem to think they can go around behaving like they're little gods. Well, we're not doing them any favours, are we? Treating them as an object of worship. Your car. People worship all sorts of possessions. Those things become their purpose, their reason. They become their God. How about your football team? People worship their football teams. They join together in a stadium with thousands of other people, and they'll stand there with their arms up in the air worshipping the 11 people who happen to be wearing a particular colour of shirt, and despising the 11 people on the other team and all of their fans and all of their supporters, and to some extent being prepared, if necessary, to give them a good hiding if they can get hold of them. Well, that's what happens in Europe a lot of the time anyway. We worship our sports teams, and we worship our music groups, the pop groups, the singers, the artists, the celebrities that we adore and follow. It's a form of worship. It's a form of idolatry. And these are just some of the examples of the things that we worship. These are just some of the examples of the things that are our modern gods. And they may not be statues in the traditional sense, but I tell you what, they're every bit as powerful as the old gods ever were. And they have just as much influence on us as onion worship might have had, for example. So there's a very quick answer to that question. I haven't quite finished yet, but there's a quick answer to the question: is there a God? Yes, there is. Lots of them. Another thing that we can make a God out of, and this is not one I've ever had a problem with, I must confess, which I'm sure you can tell. Your looks, your appearance, how handsome or beautiful you are, that can be a thing to worship, and there are many of us that do worship our looks. Our intellect is another one. Our intelligence, how sharp-minded we are, how quick of wit we are, how super intelligent we are, how much we know. And here's another one, and this is one that might possibly challenge a few people that I would consider to be friends. Your church. If you go to church, I appreciate that something in the region of 95% of the population, certainly in the UK anyway, does not go to church, and that's entirely up to them, obviously. But of those who do, there are a good number of folk whose worship is actually towards the church and the building and the institution that is the church becomes the focus of their attention and their devotion, and it is what they are committed to. And I'm not entirely sure that is as it ought to be. Here's another one. Your husband or your wife or your partner, if I'm allowed to say partner, husband or wife, I don't know what I'm allowed to say anymore, but it's very easy to make an idol, an object of worship out of someone that you love. And there's a difference between loving somebody and idolizing them, and it's something we need to be very careful of. And the final sort of God, if you want, the final God that I would make mention of, just coming off the top of my head, and there are many, many more. Yourself. I mean, why else would we take our own picture and stick it online for all sorts of people to look at? What's that about? I've never understood that, and I know I'm of a more senior generation in terms of age, but I still don't understand why I would want to take my own photograph. Never mind taking a picture of my dinner and showing everybody what I've got to eat. I just don't get that either. But we need to be careful that we do not become our own God. So we've asked the question, is there a God? And I think, to be honest, we've answered it. Yes, there is. Yes, there are many. And I haven't mentioned such things as alcohol or food or drugs and various other things that people worship. Their belly. We can worship your belly very easily, and it will grow on you. But that's my answer to the question. You may have a different view, and that's great. That's fine. Of course it is. I hope though that these thoughts that we've shared have given you something to think about. Food for thought, as they say. And if you're a person who is searching, looking for some meaning, some purpose, a reason for your existence here, then keep on searching, keep on looking, don't stop, don't give up, don't let the world drag you away from that. It's like a pilgrimage. Keep on looking, and the answers will find you. But that's my answer to the question, is there a God? Next video that's going to come up, I think, we'll be asking another question about what do we worship and what possible use is it to us. Until then, I bid you a fond one. Have a great day, be mightily blessed, and if you've a moment to do so, perhaps ask yourself,